wake up to Bill Flynn in the morning.
Tommy Cowett of GrowinGreen's here, and before we get into the topic of the day, and that is Love Your Lawn Hour, you were just amazed at the story we did of the lady that took
72 pounds of steak 3 ways.
72 ounces of steak.
Oh.
I mean, it's like 16, was it 16 pounds or so?
What did he figure
8,
that up? It was 3 plates of 72 ounces.
It was a big chunk of a cow. And she apparently won.
Smith said it was 13 and a half.
13 and a half pounds,
yeah.
72 ounces. Oh, do you remember that John Candy movie I was referencing where he had to eat?
Yeah, I do remember, and he had to eat the gristle. So
yeah. And then he came home, and it was not a pretty sight.
No.
Yeah. Which, if you're in competitive eating, I guess as long as you do the job that is required at the moment, everything else is up for or down or whatever for grabs.
Well, see, this is sort of parallels what a lot of your old conventional lawn care does. It pounds way too much of something or attempts to. This is the truth, Bill.
Yep.
When we go out with these synthetic forms of fertilizers that you buy at the big box store or wherever, 10-10-10 is a good example. That's way too much. Most of what's in that bag is not available to the plant. It's sort of like...
Why is it in there then?
Well, it's just a marketing thing. They're selling fertilizer, The plant cannot possibly take up that much N, P, or K. It's not soluble. It's not available to the plant. The microbes in the soil make those nutrients available to the plant and feed the plant. It's not us. So this is exactly a really good example of what's happening.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean...
So it's really a marketing thing. It's almost like when you're buying dog food or dog treats, they're marketing to the owner, and the dog may or may not get the value out of it that you see it when you buy it, right?
Sure, you're not getting the nutrient out of it. Most of that fertilizer that you're putting out is either leached out of the soil, ends up in the streams and lakes, goes down the gutter. It never makes it into the plant. Some of it does, and you do see a green-up effect. But if you don't keep giving it that artificial fertilizer, it's just going to go off color, and then you need more and more and more, and as a result, you've killed your microbes.
It sounds like, the way you describe this, Tommy, this is, by the way, Tommy Cowett, agronomist with GrowinGreen, and the website is growingreen.com. We're going to be talking about your lawn and where things need to be right now and how to maximize, the look of your lawn as we come up in the summer stress that's on the way in probably shorter weeks than we can imagine right now. You almost described an addiction here, an addiction like somebody who's addicted to a drug. They require more and more to get the same effect. And is that exactly the same thing
That
that's
is
happening?
exactly what this is. What we've been doing in conventional lawn care and even agriculture for so long, it's been so wrong. Well, now things are shifting. Folks are using the microbiology now. They're building the microbes in the soil.
But not everybody seems to be on board. The GrowinGreen is the cutting edge of that new understanding, is it?
It's all about education. When John Rigsby and I were back at NC State and we started working with Ciba-Geigy with their new product Primo, which was a growth regulator to reduce the amount of growth, top growth. It would reduce those clippings by about 50% for a 4-week period. And most of the energy in the plant went to root growth. And, it took a lot of education. People knew about these earlier growth regulators that really zapped the plant and stopped it from growing. Wasn't healthy. It didn't redirect the growth to root growth. Okay. It really just stopped everything.
I see. It
in
just
its tracks.
Stunted everything.
Stunted it.
Got it.
Turned it yellow usually. The highway departments were using it along, the highway so they didn't have to mow as much. And these were not good for a great lawn, or even a decent lawn. This would hurt a decent lawn.
Was the idea just to make it easier to cut the grass?
Yeah.
Have to cut it as much low maintenance.
Growth regulator.
Yeah.
But when you combine and the technology got better and they understood gibberellins, which are growth hormones, and how you can pinpoint a particular growth hormone in the plant and stop just that one hormone, which was responsible for cellular elongation, which made the plant grow out. And just stop that one, it redirected the growth, the energy in the plant, to root growth and lateral growth. And then we educated. It took this education. We were primo consultants. We went around and showed people how this worked. We actually applied it to their turf, and they saw it. You could see the difference in growth, the cutting height. Over here, this not treated section was, 5-6 inches taller than where we applied it. Where we applied it was darker green and tighter and more thicker and beautiful. And
that's because the root system is really spreading out, really feeding that plant.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, wouldn't be at that level.
Sure. If you continue to grow in the roots, the whole thing is about root growth, really. I mean, we're trying to grow from the roots up, in this case, and with the microorganisms that colonize the root system of the plant. You want to make them healthy. Once you get that, it could take you 2-3 years to get there. But once you get there, you're gold. I mean, as long as you don't do something stupid like apply another synthetic to it and kill all your microbes again.
Which kind of puts you back to square one or toward that direction.
It can easily put you right back where you were. So shifting around different lawn care companies, if you go organic, I didn't like that. Well, you should have been a little more patient, but
it also gets to the issue that a lot of homeowners have lawn care hybrid. Maybe you got somebody that helps you mow the grass occasionally, or, I'm using GrowinGreen in the spring, but in the fall I'll do my own. And actually doing things, you can cancel out some of the benefit if you don't really follow the protocol, right?
I agree with that. I've seen that. Yep, firsthand. Definitely seen that. Mm-hmm. A lot of our landscape customers, they will do their own fertilizations in the fall and maybe even use less than good quality seed sometimes. They're just, it's all about the bottom line on that type of thing, or it could be in a commercial account that they're managing, and they're going to...
Well, how do you broach that topic? You say, listen, I know what we're doing here, and this is not going to help you.
Right, we show them, look, you've got this particular weed now that probably came from your seed you bought, or that type of thing, I mean, it's obvious. Yeah. It becomes obvious.
Now, the other thing I want to ask you about, too, is for those of us that do have contract mowing, even residential, is there a danger of taking something from one yard that wasn't so well maintained into your yard? Now, think about that, because we got to take a break and come back, but this is a concern I want to get to. And also, if you got a question for our expert this morning from GrowinGreen about your lawn, 896-1980 is our phone number, 896-1980. Tommy Cowett is in the house with GrowinGreen, and good to see you this morning, Tommy.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980 The Eagle.
It's AM 980 The Eagle. Bill Flynn this morning. We continue with the Love Your Lawn Hour.
Hello.
And Tommy Cowett is still hung up on that big old steak eating moment we had on the show.
I did my math. It was 13.5 pounds of beef in how many minutes?
She beat the record of the restaurant. I don't remember. Was it? It was under 20 minutes.
My God!
I do remember that. Yeah.
That's a bowling ball.
I'll try to get the. No, here you go. She ate it in 4 minutes and 18 seconds.
Oh.
4 minutes and 18 seconds.
Oh. Man,
that was about the duration of the break we just had.
These, the hot dog eating contests, I cannot watch them. Man.
It would so ruin a hot dog for me.
Yeah.
It would just ruin the idea of enjoying eating, because now it's a whole different thing. Anyway, we continue this morning with a couple of appropriate distractions here, but we're talking about the Love Your Lawn Hour, and Tommy Cowett is here from GrowinGreen. And if you have a question for our lawn expert, 896-1980, our phone number this morning, 896-1980. Tommy, a lot of us have mowers that we hire to take care of our yard. And Lord knows, over a week or two or a month, it could be hundreds of different lawns and areas these things are exposed to. Is there a concern, and have you seen evidence where a mower brings in a mold or brings in some other undesirable into your yard once it's pretty well set up?
Absolutely. I mean, these are seeds typically that are on the mowing decks. And it'd be really nice if the landscaper, while he's at a yard that is, loaded with weeds, before he leaves that yard, go ahead and thoroughly blow that machine off before he goes to somebody with a nice yard.
Inside the housing even? I mean,
just in the driveway, and then blow the seeds and other debris into the yard. If it's a trashed yard, usually like a field or something, don't, go to a really pristine lawn with a mower that you just did some back field, because you are going to be carrying, especially if that lawn's not getting treated, because you can overcome that. I mean, I wouldn't fear it in my lawn. I know I've got the pre-emergent out, so
okay, that's a question I was going to ask.
There's not going to be any weed invasion in my yard at all. Plus, I'm so thick, and I'm mowing it at 4 inches. Not a lot of sunlight.
You've almost built a grass vault.
I have. That's what our lawns, we educate the customer as to, mow at this height. Keep everything clean, that is important. But as long as you're covered with the pre-emergence, you're not going to have that, invasion it's not as likely you'll get an invasion.
And that pre-emergent application is that over multiple applications, or is one going to hold you for, a couple of weeks? Of how long does that?
Well, the way our program works, good question, is the first 3 applications we do in a season, that's from February 1st on through May, will contain pre-emergent. So you're pretty much covered for all of your summer annual weeds that may be germinating, particularly crabgrass. That's enemy number 1, because that's the one that's the most invasive, and it will choke out and kill your lawn. It can.
Oh yeah, I've seen evidence, and I've kind of, it's one of those things where you watch it and you know what's happening. You kind of feel helpless because there's not a whole lot you can do once it gets a hold of things.
Once it germinates, and we're already seeing it. Yesterday I saw the first really good invasion, of crabgrass. So that gentleman did not have it down. Now we do have a way to combat it after it comes up, but it's pretty difficult.
So it's much better. It's a much more winnable war if you can tell it, don't even come here to begin with.
Right. You really want to have your pre-emergent down by the time the dogwoods are in bloom. So right now you're getting at the end of it, but we can tailor fit your lawn into a program, or tailor fit the program if you've already got crabgrass.
Okay. So if somebody's hearing you right now and saying, I know I should have gone with you guys.
Missed it. Waited too long. Don't worry, you're good.
Okay, we can actually get involved, get engaged, and still have a better outcome.
Sure.
Even after the fact.
Because we can pick it. We can take out that very young 2-leaf stage crabgrass pretty easily. Once it gets, to where it's like the size of a pizza, it's pretty much a Roundup issue there in the fall, and then we'll kill it off.
When we say crabgrass, does everybody know when we talk about crabgrass versus, I don't know, creeping Charlie? I mean, there's so many things out there that can affect it.
It's so funny that, I'll be on a lawn in the middle of July, and a customer with a fescue lawn will be saying, well, why is my lawn looking a little off color and stressed out right now, where that guy's lawn is screaming green, lime green. And then I'll take them over there and show them that entire lawn is crabgrass. Happens all the time. You see it. They didn't do a treatment. You know what I'm saying? You're lucky you got on the program, because that lawn there, going to seed, it's crabgrass, would be trashing your lawn if you aren't protected with the pre-emergence. Because if you get a treatment from us, you won't have any crabgrass.
That's a beautiful thing. And that's the other thing. We talked about mowers from other lots and other places coming in. But let's say you have a particular interest in keeping your yard great, but maybe your neighbor is not quite as up to speed. And that's you almost have to build a Great Wall of China biologically.
Yep, it's an iron lawn is what we shoot for, the iron lawn. The Great Wall of China. We're building these roots, and we build a plant that's strong, less susceptible to disease and drought stress and heat stress. And the microbes are all playing a role in this. So it's healthy microbes lead to deep, healthy root systems, which lead to great tops.
So many people think, gosh, I've got to have a, $10,000 sprinkler system in order to have a good looking lawn. And I'm struck by the fact, I know Jonathan's mentioned it before, that he doesn't run a sprinkler system. And when we come back, I want to talk about, again, working with the reality of our climate and our nature in this area, and how GrowinGreen really does pay attention to those things. And we'll come back in just a moment with our Love Your Lawn Hour. Tommy Cowett joins us from GrowinGreen. The website, GrowinGreen.com, GrowinGreen.com. And you can also call them directly at 1-866-LAWN-HELP.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. It's the GrowinGreen Love Your Lawn Hour, and Tommy Cowett joins us this morning, and we're talking about all things having to do with where your lawn is and making it, and in some sense, allowing your lawn, with the cooperation of nature, to become what it's really destined to be. And there are all kinds of hazards, if you will, along the way. One of them can be, and Tommy, right before the break, I was asking you to get ready to comment about this. You got the event where your next door neighbor is maybe not as critically thinking or caring about their lawn, and that's okay. I'm not here to castigate anybody. I mean, people have different preferences, and that's what makes part of life interesting.
Sure.
But if you've got a lot of time and energy and money invested in your lawn, and you got Weed City next door to you, you may love your neighbor, but you don't really want your neighbor's lawn influence into your yard. And tell me about some of the safeguards that you try to build at GrowinGreen.
Well, that concern always comes up, usually when I'm meeting with a customer. It can cause neighbor
problems sometimes, I would think.
Oh, sure, yeah. Sure. If somebody's trying and I meet with them on the lawn and they say, yeah, but my neighbor, he's not doing anything, so I'm just going to get trashed. And I put them at ease and say, no, hey, if you're on our program, you're completely covered. You're not going to get that trash. We're putting down a barrier to the weed seed germinating in your yard, particularly crabgrass. But it will, our program also covers all the other weeds. So you're covered. You're not going to have that invasion. You don't have to worry about it. That weed seed is not going to invade your lawn from the neighbor if you're on the program. And
if you're not on the program, you can count on it. I've seen it happen.
Oh, yeah.
in lawns.
Crabgrass is inevitable. It's going to grow even in the concrete. It comes up everywhere if you're not treated. And that's the reality.
Lovely.
And it chokes out anything good. It's very aggressive. But some folks even want that summer lawn. They got a crabgrass lawn. They grow a crabgrass lawn. And then it's brown in the winter. And then they're wondering why all the other lawns that are treated are greening up. Well, what's wrong with my lawn? It's completely dead. You have a crabgrass lawn. Don't worry. In about a month, you're going to have crabgrass again for about 3 months. Then it's going to die. And then you're going to be back to this dirt again. So if you get on the program, you seed at the proper time of year, you can establish a great lawn. We'll help build the microbiology in the soil. And after a few years, going from a crabgrass lawn, you'll have an awesome, deep, dense, thick, beautiful lawn.
A real lawn.
That pretty much takes care of itself, a monoculture. Sometimes the Bermuda will still be there, but we have a way to take the Bermuda out of fescue, or vice versa. we could take everything else that we do a lot of conversions to Bermuda grass for folks.
What is the thinking and the advantage of either side of that decision on Bermuda? If you got areas that are kind of wanting to go there?
Well, Bermuda is well adapted to the Piedmont of North Carolina, and it will grow, and it's an iron lawn. It has very few problems. It's, pretty durable. Most of the athletic fields around here are Bermuda grass. So, you could see the durability in it. Mm-hmm. The downside to it is it's dormant in the winter. It's brown. Most people don't like that. It's really not brown. It's more of I would say like a white, opaque kind of color.
I think of a lot of, when you say that.
I like it.
I think of a lot of golf courses that show up that way.
Exactly. And
you can still play them.
People are coming around. It's a paradigm shift. You had golf courses that would overseed with, perennial ryegrass to just give you a green kind of color over the winter so they get more play. Not so much anymore. Folks are realizing that when they do that, they've got to kill that ryegrass off in the spring so that the Bermuda has a free range to do what it wants to do, which is grow and become really thick. And,
you talk about the Bermuda suiting this area so well. We know that we're going to be facing, in a matter of a few short weeks here.
Sure. End of May, you'll start to see brown patch.
We're going to be facing, as we always do, extreme temperatures, burning sun. Mm-hmm. And we know the toll it takes, if you've been here any number of seasons at all, what it takes on a lawn. And right now, here we are in the prettiest spring window here. We've just been through some weather yesterday. I showed you the video that I shot at my house.
Boy, you got a bad one through there. Hail.
Yeah, we did. And we lost a lot of leaves. I saw they're still in my yard. I got to do some getting the leaves up, and they're green leaves, not the brown ones. So
it ripped half your canopy down, so now you got more light. So that's a plus.
Aren't we seeing the silver lining in the cloud this morning?
Hey,
That's good.
You got to look at everything. If there is some positive to what happened, turn it around. That's all the idea of positive thinking.
I was so glad yesterday that I did not have a Lamborghini I owned parked in the driveway.
And the Mini Cooper was at wake, so you're...
And a mile away, there was no problem at all. But to the question of right now, in order to have our best chance of surviving and getting through and that really tough upcoming season of heat, what are the advices to be doing right now and not to be doing with your lawns?
Well, one thing you don't want to be doing that a lot of people have already done is gone to the big box and bought a bag of a synthetic form of fertilizer that might contain pre-emergent, and it's a high rate of nitrogen. And they're putting that down now. And what that does is kill off some of the microbiology in the soil, good beneficial bacteria, which the nematodes and the protozoans and the amoebas all want to eat. And they're going to feed your plants with good nitrogen, soluble nitrogen that they produce themselves from eating the bacteria and fungi that are in the soil. That's called the soil food web. Well, you've already hurt that. You bombed it.
And that will show up later after the fact as a deficit for your lawn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's when you get into the stress and you've fed this lawn synthetically. Mm-hmm. And it's very lush and it's very tender and it's growing way beyond what it really should. Because if a biologically fed lawn is feeding at the right pace, there's no waste products, there's no leaching out of material that's going to go into because you probably, if you bought that bag from the big box, you're only getting the benefit of about 10% of what was in that bag.
Hold the rest of this answer. We're going to take a short break and come back about surviving the coming summer and still finding some green when you open up that door or walk on the deck. 896-1980, our phone number this morning. We'll continue with the Love Your Lawn Hour in 2 minutes.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
AM 980 The Eagle. Grazing in the Grass. That's the name of that song. Great song. And appropriate this morning. Let me encourage you to visit the Folks at GrowinGreen, you can visit them right now on the website. It's growingreen.com, GrowinGreen.com. There's a button there, too, called Ask the Expert. And I know Jonathan's been really working hard to respond rapidly whenever somebody pushes that button and says, here's a question I got. What can you tell me? And this is available for anybody that goes to that website.
Sure.
And that's a great service to have.
We try to provide any technical services you need, whether you're on our program or not.
That's a great thing.
Even if you're a competitor. I mean, we want everybody
I never thought about that, but I can see.
Hey, we're not, we do the YouTube videos. We share everything we do. We try to educate. That's what it's going to take. Like I was going back to earlier in the program, we were talking about when John and I were Primo consultants. That was an educational effort to get these golf course superintendents primarily, and landscapers and botanical gardens and everybody who we, would show the product to, anybody who was maintaining turf, this new way of doing things. And now I don't think there's a golf course in the country that doesn't use this stuff wall to wall.
That's spectacular.
And back in those days, it was like, are you kidding me? Put a growth regulator on this lawn? No way.
That's a sea change.
And now it's like, hey, man, if I don't use it, I'm not going to benefit from this great product, and it fits in the budget, reduces your mowing and everything. And GrowinGreen does provide that service too. We do Primo applications.
But I think it's a great thing when we, it's one thing to have a lawn that you want to have look nice, and that's for every homeowner, and that's a high mark. But when you're dealing with essentially professional lawns, golf courses, university campuses, it's not an option for them to have failure.
No.
And that's their business will decline and suffer if these things aren't right. And the fact that GrowinGreen has been consulting and working on the most stringent levels of demand from consumers and professionals over years, and you're still here to talk about it.
Yep, I'm having
remarkable.
A bunch of 50 tons of sand delivered to Bowman Gray Stadium tomorrow. We'll be deep tying that field and top dressing it next week when Scott gets back from Disneyland. But we got to keep the sand off the track, and because the cars are going to be there Saturday night.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Yeah,
we need another complication there.
Yeah, but we got to get that field is a great field. It's got some areas it's ryegrass right now, but it'll be deep tying top. That needs to be done on a field like that every few years.
I want to make sure we covered all the bases, too, about the question we asked going into the break. And you were answering it just about making sure we do everything we can to survive and really do well over this upcoming hot season, summer season for us. And is there anything you didn't touch on that's important?
I was just going to say that if you are on a synthetic program and you've overfed your lawn this spring, and right now it's rip-roaring and you're mowing twice a week, you better be ready for some disease pressure from brown patch, and fusarium, and pythium, and other types of diseases. Because chances are if you use that synthetic, you've killed off a lot of the good beneficial bacteria that help prevent these diseases. They become antagonistic against the pathogens. And, because there is a war going on there.
Oh, yeah. And I was just going to say, this tells me something. For years and years, I had a neighbor, it's still a good friend of mine, but he ended up in a war every year, and his war was with Bermuda grass and other undesirables as he saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was doing, he was greening up his lawn, but then it was not staying healthy enough to push back what he didn't want, just to your point here.
Yeah.
And he was in the battle of his life every year, trying to squeeze in that bad section of his lawn, and it was digging up, back-breaking stuff.
Oh,
but what you're saying is, let the lawn be healthy. Don't over-throttle it.
Don't force-feed it like that woman did with a 13.5 pounds of steak. That's what you're basically doing. I'm serious.
You keep coming back to that steak.
It's such a great analogy to the way people feed lawns. 10% of what they're putting out is actually used by the lawn. The rest ends up in the streams. environmentalist wackos are all over our tails about, oh, you're polluting. We're like, no. We need to get to the biology.
Well, instead of doing this slam dunk and waddling away from the table, what you're talking about is a continual conveyor belt of appropriate feed and water, and really letting nature build its own strength. And I think that's powerful. You mentioned something during the break, and I had not heard it before. It's called an LDS, a localized dry spot. Sure. And this is not an uncommon thing in lawns in this area. What is that a little bit more, and how do you deal with that effectively?
Well, a lot of times it's built up from soluble salts from poor, fertilizing applications.
So you've actually put it there yourself.
Yeah.
If you've been doing this.
You've been doing it synthetic, you're going to have a salt buildup, and then what that does is it causes death to the microbes in the soil, number one. Because the microbes in the soil are eating and decaying and taking care of the soil. They're correcting issues with soluble salts. They can degrade that. But if you're killing it constantly with the wrong type of fertilizers, then you're going to end up with these localized dry spots, which are typically caused by a salt buildup. Now, we can use soil surfactants, like a dishwashing liquid type of product, that will help to, correct the lack of porosity, or what they call it, hydrophobicity is what it is.
Does the soil
it's hydrophobic? It won't wet.
Does the soil get almost like concrete, really, really hard? Is that an indication that salt crystal is building up in there? How do you know?
Well, that's typically calcium and phosphates that will bind, because those two will bind together and cause a brick formation. Now, here's the thing.
See. Yes.
I want that calcium and I want that phosphorus, but I want it in the plant. The microbes, when they secrete these organic acids, can solubilize the calcium and the phosphorus in the soil and deliver it right to the plant. And it's free.
And that's
it's already in the soil. But a lot of times you've already ruined your soil by killing off your microbiology, and you end up with a brick. And wherever you see those bare spots in a lawn where it's just clay and exposed and you see it, it's
right. And you can
ugly.
Every homeowner says, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen right here.
Yeah, there's no life there. There's no life there. You really need to start applications of compost, things that contain microorganisms, because we use a very high-quality compost tea in our program. That's basically what it is.
But it's almost like, you call them localized dry spots. It's almost like you have a micro desert in certain spots of your lawn.
Yeah. That's what it is.
And you can water it from here to eternity.
It won't wet.
Yeah, it doesn't even. It's a brick. It's not a sponge.
Sure,
in that sense.
It repels water.
Who would have guessed when we were kids growing up, and we would cut lawns, our own and others, and I remember getting $3.50 to cut lawns that were about, at that point for me, almost thigh thick with weeds. That there could be so much precision engineering in chemistry to really maximize a lawn. We had no clue back those days. At least I did.
They were doing things the way they were farming. The 10-10-10, the 8-8-8, 5-10-10 fertilizers. Whatever they were putting out that way. If you had grubs, you'd put out Dursban or diazinon, or maybe even chlordane. Who knows? There was a lot of old chemistry being used, and a lot of this came out of the war effort,
And we knew that
ammunition,
it worked. We knew that it worked on an isolated basis, but when you zoom out for the macro of the environment, and specifically your yard is the environment. What you're doing here to help this could really damage what you're trying to do in the larger scale.
In the soil, and I tell you, I've met farmers over the years that just couldn't grow a crop anymore because they kept using the synthetic forms, the ammonium nitrates, ammoniacal fertilizers, killed all the microbiology off, and then the farm wasn't sustainable anymore.
Well, we can't sustain this anymore because our time is up. It's the Growing Green. It's always goes so fast when you guys are here. Thank you. Tommy Cowett.
Enjoyed it, Bill.
GrowinGreen.com, the website. The phone number is 1-866-LAWN-HELP. Growing Green, they'll do it right, and we'll look for you next Tuesday here at AM 980 The Eagle.